Okay, so welcome to the 13th lecture of my classical Greek introductory course. Today, we are going to overview nouns in the third declension with a semi-vowel in the stem. And the example we are going to look at is the noun polis, which means city or city-state. And this you find the paradigm of on page 56, section 474 in the Cambridge Grammar of Classical Greek. Then we have another example, which is the noun pehys, which means arm or arm's length. And you find the inflection of this noun on the following page in section 479 in the grammar. And then on page 73, section 521, you find the inflection of a corresponding three-ending adjective hedys, which means sweet or pleasant. And this is actually all we have on the schedule today. So the lecture will be somewhat shorter than usual. So these nouns and adjectives with semi-vowel endings characteristically change their stems depending on number and case. So that's, for instance, the noun polis has a stem ending in iota in the nominative singular, while the stem ends in an a sound or a longer a sound in the other numbers and cases. And again, as we have grown accustomed to, when these stem ending sounds meet the case endings, some changes in the sounds of the vowels occur. Thus, for instance, the genitive singular form of polis, poleos, comes from an original poleios through an intermediary step and a metathesis quantitatis, which we have stumbled on before. Anyway, the nominative plural form poleis, in turn, comes from an original poleies through disappearance of the y sound and contraction of the two remaining epsilons. But let's overview the full paradigm for this now. So here we have in the nominative singular polis, in the genitive poleos, in the dative polei, in the accusative polin, and in the vocative poli. And then in the plural, we have in the nominative poleis, in the genitive poleon, in the dative polesin, and in the accusative poleis. Okay, then we have the next example now, which is pehys, meaning arm's length. And here we actually have a variation between different stems as well, but this time only between two variants, since we have a stem ending in ypsilon in some numbers and cases, while others have a stem ending in epsilon, or actually in an epsilon and a digamma. But as usual, the latter letter has disappeared before the classical age. So this is how this noun is inflected. So in the nominative singular, we have pehys, then in the genitive, peheos, in the dative, pehei, in the accusative, pehyn, and in the vocative, pehy. And then in the plural, we have in the nominative, peheis, in the genitive, peheon, in the dative, pehesin, in the accusative, peheis, and the vocative form is, again, as usual, identical with the nominative form in the plural. So it's also peheis. Okay. Then we have the last topic of today, which is an adjective with this kind of varying semivowel ending stems. So here our example is the three-ending adjective hedys, hedeja, hedy, meaning sweet. The masculine and the neuter forms have here a stem ending in ypsilon, while the feminine forms have an original stem ending in epsilon and digamma, so in an eu sound. But this original digamma has again disappeared early on. So in the following paradigm, we may note that the masculine and neuter genitive singular forms end in a short o sound instead of the long o sound, which we encountered in the corresponding forms for the nouns pehys and polis, which were peheos and poleos, as we remember. But yeah, this is how the adjective hedys is inflected in all genders, numbers, and cases. So we begin with the singular again. We have in the masculine nominative hedys. Then we have in the genitive hedeos, in the dative hedei, in the accusative hedyn, and in the vocative hedy. And then the feminine singular is hedeia in the nominative, hedeias in the genitive, hedeia in the dative, hedeian in the accusative, and hedeia in the feminine. And in the neuter we have hedy in the nominative, hedeos in the genitive, hedei in the dative, hedy in the accusative, and hedy in the vocative. Okay, and then the plural forms. The plural forms are in the nominative hedeis in the masculine, hedeon in the genitive, hedesin in the dative, and hedeis in the accusative. And then the vocative is again identical with the nominative, so it's hedeis. And then the feminine plural is hedeiai in the nominative, hedeion in the genitive, hedeiais in the dative, hedeias in the accusative, and hedeiai in the vocative. And in the neuter we have hedea, hedeon, hedesin, hedea, and hedea. So yeah, that was actually all the new forms that we had for today. But I thought that we could also, in closing, look at how the Greek alphabet is usually written on like a normal Latin keyboard, because there's some peculiarities here. So if you want to, for instance, use Thesaurus Lingvae Graecae, the online version of the Dill, Jones, and Scott lexicon, which you find you find on Thesaurus Lingua Graecae homepage, and you want to type in a Greek word with your Latin alphabet, then these are like the equivalent Latin letters that you type in for each Greek letter. So some of these are quite straightforward, but then if you go to, for instance, eta, it's written as an H letter. And then if you look at, for instance, C, it's an C. And then if you go further downward, we find, for instance, he, which is an X, written with an X letter. And then we have C, which is an Y, and the omega is an W. So this takes some time to get used to, but then when you are used to typing these Greek letters with the Latin alphabet into these search tools, when you need it, then it's quite an useful tool, and it's the online version of the little Scott and Jones that you find on Thesaurus Lingua Graecae. If you haven't used it already, it's certainly a very useful tool, and it also makes reading faster when you get used to it. So yeah, that was all for the lecture part for today. Any questions on this new noun and adjective forms that we had?
No.
Okay. No questions?
No.
Good. Have you had time to look at the chapter in Pontaine at all?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Then we can move on to that. So, how about you, Alex? Did you have time to look at the Pontaine chapter 11?
No, I don't.
That's okay.
I was a bit lost. Yeah.
That's completely okay. You can just follow.
Okay, with pleasure. Yeah.
We work on it with Nigel then.
Okay, perfect. I will try to follow. So Pontaine capital 11 it is.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Okay.
Can you see this this chapter here on the screen?
No.
All right.
No, I don't see it. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to share the screen. That's the explanation.
Okay.
So, okay. This, and then from here, we move on to the Pontaine chapter. Perfect.
Okay.
So first we have here the Swedish sentences. Just it says Pericles statue with an inscription. And then we have this Swedish sentence here is says inscription on the statue of Demosthenes in Athens. So I don't think we don't have to read this because it's very unclear. The scan isn't very good, so we can just skip that one. But if you go straight to this inscription on Demosthenes statue, then maybe Nigel would like to start with that one.
I put it as, if indeed you had strength similar to your wisdom, Demosthenes, the Ares of Macedon would not have ruled the Greeks.
Yeah, exactly. So we had like here a conditional clause in this aper isen Romen gnome Demosthenes eiches. This is the conditional part, so which you translated completely correctly. So if you had like or the same strength as thought or your wit, Demosthenes, then never would the Hellenes or the Greeks have been ruled by the Macedonian Ares, or never would the Macedonian Ares have ruled the
Greeks,
Hellenes or the Greeks. So yeah. So again, there's of course this could be broken down now to smaller parts as well. But this we have here the modal particle, of course, this an, which is usually part of these conditional clauses. So this is like an irreal conditional clause because it gives expression to something which is, or a counterfactual conditional clause because it gives expression to something which is not actually the case. It was not so that Demosthenes had equal strength to his wit, and that's why this Macedonian Ares was able to subdue the Greek city-states. So in this kind of counterfactual conditional clauses, there's usually an augmented verb form. So where is the augmented verb form here in this conditional clause? This, which starts with this aper. Where do we find the augmented verb form here?
Yeah.
It's this one, right?
Echo.
Eches.
Yeah,
echo. So it's when echo gets augmented, it becomes a. So this was untypical form, but this is of course an imperfect form, second person singular imperfect of echo. You had, but you didn't have. And then in these conditional clauses, also in the main clause, the main clause is this upote an Hellenon erxen Ares Makedon. There is also an augmented verb form. So a verb form in the past tense in this in the main clause in these conditional sentences when they are counterfactual. And where is the augmented verb form here then?
Erxen.
Erxen, exactly. And what's the tense here?
Well, it's aorist, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So this is an aorist, third person singular aorist form. And what's the basic form of the verb? So the present indicative form of the verb erxen.
Arxen.
Archo.
Archo, yeah.
So lead or rule.
Rule, yeah.
Yeah. But then when archo gets augmented, the initial, so this is a bit of rehearsal now that I'm trying to give here. So the initial alpha turns into a long e sound, so an eta, when it gets augmented. And then of course we have here the sigma, aorist sigma infix is in this xi, because it's archo with an he in the basic form. But then when it becomes augmented, it becomes xi. So that's how you can recognize it as an aorist form. Okay, but then we have the next inscription, which is an grave inscription for Volcakia Fausta, so a woman named Volcakia Fausta.
Yeah, this one I found quite. I couldn't get much. I mean, I got the memorial Volcakia, Volcakia Faustus, which is the Greek version. So memorial Volcakia Fausta, but the next. I just couldn't make sense of this next.
So if you start with this name here, this
yeah, that's the Greek version of the Latin, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But what's the case here? in this name,
Uh,
Bulgakias faustas, or Bulgakias
genitive,
faustas.
is it?
Genitive, exactly.
Yes.
So it's an possessive, normal
Yeah,
possessive genitive. Hypomnema, the memorial of Bulgakias faustas.
Yeah.
Would be the first clause here. And then what do we have here?
I couldn't work out Catiscues son. I mean, it's. I would imagine it's buried, but I couldn't find the verb that it came from.
It's actually kata skeuatso is the basic form of the verb. So kata skeuatso. It means it can mean prepare or set up, or the basic meaning is prepare. So prepared, because it's obviously it's an aorist, right?
Okay, for her.
Yeah, for her. And if you look at this small word here, this ho, what's this?
Well, it's a
relative pronoun.
Relative pronoun, so
yeah.
But
and it's in the.
It's a mask.
It's accusative, right? No, sorry. It's neuter, because it refers to hypomnema, right? Hypomnema is an neuter word.
Neuter.
And this is also a neuter form.
So
if it would be masculine, it would be hos.
Hos, yeah. But, so this prepared for her.
Or which, if you are like really anal.
Yeah.
We can say which prepared for her, and who. What's the subject? Who is the subject? Preparing. Prepared.
Dionysus.
Yeah.
Of Apollonius.
Yeah, Dionysius of Apollonius. Apollonius is the name of the father.
Yeah.
Dionysius, the son of Apollonius.
Yeah.
And then we have.
So the man. So husband.
Yeah. The man, the husband. Yeah. So yeah, kai means of course
both and.
Yeah.
Kai.
So it could be for and for maybe.
Yeah.
In this case, because we have here a dative.
Yeah. Herself, for her.
This can't be for herself, because it's masculine.
Okay.
Reflexive pronoun. So it has to be for himself.
Himself. And for the children.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like I would interpret this as you did a great work. You got the meaning pretty correctly, but I would interpret this like as the memorial of Bulgakias faustas. The memorial of Bulgakia Fausta, which prepared for her Dionysius, son of Apollonius, her husband, and for himself and for the children. So that would be like word for word translation, but then we have to rethink it somehow. So the memorial of Bulgakia Fausta, which her husband prepared, her husband Dionysius, son of Apollonius, prepared for her and for himself and for his children. So that's like the full meaning. So he made it not only for her, but also for himself and for his kids. So this is obviously the way you still make memorials, right? You leave room for, if you make a memorial for your wife, for instance, you leave room for yourself there as well, often. So yeah. Well, then we have this next one. So what would be the? Have you had time to
yes
look at this as well? Okay, what would be this one if you would like to continue?
So DOT is why. Well, it's why the Athenians set up a temple to Pan.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Yeah, that was it. So let's start with the story then.
Yeah. So when the Persians were marching on Hellas, marching against Hellas, the Athenians sent a herald to Sparta. Pheidippides being the herald, I presume.
Yeah. So the herald Pheidippides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was a God-fearing man.
Yeah, but if you look at again, if you take also this small here, what's this now? This Hos.
That's referring back to
to
Apollonia, to Pheidippides.
Exactly. So that's another relative pronoun, right?
Pronoun, yeah.
So maybe it could be translated best as who.
Who being who was being a God-fearing man.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this man, Hutos, said that he encountered Pan himself on the hill, on the Parthenon hill.
Yeah. Exactly. That would be the meaning there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then.
And indeed, her son. So he had himself the horns of a goat on his head, and flowers. He had indeed the horns of a billy goat and flowers on his head.
Yeah. Yeah. So he had the feet and the horns.
Oh, the feet, of course, the podes. Yeah, I missed that bit.
Yeah, pus in the basic form, which means foot, and then here it's in the nominative plural, so feet.
Yeah.
And this is also the plural form of keras, which means horns.
Horns. Yeah.
So the foot, the feet and the horns of a he goat for him was literally.
Yeah.
So he had these feet and horns of a he goat, and this is also a plural form of anthos, which means flower.
Flowers.
And flowers on his head, right?
Yeah.
And then.
And the god asked whether the Athenians had not provided gifts for him, gifts of honor for him.
Yeah, or actually, yeah, very close. But I think it's actually the god or Apollon, maybe. No, Pan, of course, is the god here. Pan asked Diotin why, in this case.
Oh, why they hadn't,
Yeah, why the Athenians hadn't prepared gifts of honor or privileged gifts to him. So here we have this. If you look at this verb form, parhoien, what? How would you analyze this?
That's an infinitive.
No.
No. Okay.
So this is an optative form. How do you recognize it?
Of course, with the oi. Yeah.
Yeah, it has this oi here. So it's an. Let me see. It's an present third person singular optative, right? Isn't it? Yes. Yeah.
Makes more sense.
Yeah. And why is it an optative here? So you don't have to know this. I mean, it's just a bit of a rehearsal of what we have had. So do you remember the oblique optative? Optativus obliquus, which the oblique optative is when we have in the subordinate clause, we have an optative form instead of an usually a subjunctive form. It can also be instead of an indicative form when we have in the main clause an augmented verb, so a past tense verb.
Oh, okay.
And we have it here in this aorist form here, erotese. So that's the aorist form of erotao, which is ask. So the god asked, because it's in the past tense here in the main clause, the predicate. Then there can be an oblique optative in the subject clause, in the subordinate clause, which is in this case an object clause. But this is, of course, you don't have to remember all these details. It's just a bit of rehearsal. Okay, but great work with the translation again. Let's just take the remaining parts then, if you have time for it.
So aeon is if, or
Yeah.
if so, he said, and then the therapeutosi, I think it's a participle, but I got
no, it's the therapeuo is the basic form here, which is means worship. I worship therapeuo, and do you find here the sigma infix here, right?
Oh, future. Ah.
But it's not future either.
Okay.
So the thing is that it has the sigma infix, but it's not a futural sigma infix in this case, but it's it's an aorist infix. And this ending here, do you recognize this long thematic vowel here? This omega. So what? When did we have long thematic vowels? When it's subjunctive.
Okay.
It's a subjunctive. Then it's the
subjunctive, so aorist.
Aorist subjunctive, yeah. And what's the person and number?
Third person plural.
Yeah, exactly. Third person plural. Yeah. And the same here. This other word form here, hydrysaucin. It's also an aorist subjunctive, third person plural. So they are both aorist subjunctives. So this is another conditional clause, right? In conditional clauses, we have usually aorist. We have usually subjunctives, except for if it's an counterfactual conditional clause, like up here we had a counterfactual conditional clause. Then we usually have some augmented verb forms, so past tense verb forms. But here we have not an counterfactual conditional clause, but rather an like a prospective conditional clause. So, but how did you translate it again?
So I said if they gave honor, if they would give honor to him and set up a temple.
Yeah. Then what?
Then he would be. I will be, as am I, well disposed and useful to yourselves, to you.
Yeah, or actually, it's not to you here literally, but autos, it's like to them, exactly.
To them, so, yeah, to the Athenians, yeah.
Yeah.
So he would be useful. He would be well disposed and useful to them.
Exactly. So you translate it completely. So if he said, me, they would worship and set up a temple to me, well disposed or kind and useful, I would be to them. So word for word, that's how it would be. So if they would worship me and set up a temple for me, then I would be well disposed and useful to them. Okay.
So, and the Athenians thought, or were thinking, these things to be true.
Yeah.
And they prepared a sacred precinct and a temple for him, for Pan, for him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is this next bit I got it. And so, and once a year, so once a year,
yeah,
a feast for him and a lamp race,
yeah,
held. But I couldn't.
Yeah.
Ago.
Yeah, held probably is
held.
a good. It's an imperfect form, right, of ago.
Yes.
Which the basic meaning is lead. So, but here it could probably be translated as held or hold. So they held an torch race or a lamp race for him once a year. Hapax to etus is like once a year. Yeah, once of the year. Yeah, once a year. So the whole sentence, which translated completely correctly, is like the Athenians thought this to be true, and they set up a sacred precinct and a temple for him, or prepared a sacred precinct and a temple for him. And once a year, they held a torch race or a lamp race in his honor, or to him, literally, just to him. Auto, this proper dative here, this personal pronoun in the dative singular refers to the Pan, the god. Yeah, to Pan. So great work. This was not the easiest, even if it was quite short. And also with usually always when you have had a small break in the routine, then it gets always a bit more challenging. Also for anyone, I would say, who reads Greek or tries to understand Greek. But we had this list of victors. I don't think we will go through it now, but I can prepare a translation for this and send it to you with the material next time if you want to compare. Okay. If you have tried to translate it yourself then or something. But yeah. So yeah. Thanks again for great work with the translation. And
the Themistocles one at the bottom.
Yeah.
I presume that is just the Themistocles of of the Dean Threapos or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Threapos is the dean that he was from, I presume.
Yeah. It is, yes. Yeah. So they just basically put the name of him and then his team.
Just in case they kicked out the wrong Themistocles.
Exactly, because obviously there were a lot of Themistocles around. So yeah. But this is a real ostracon with Themistocles name on it. So yeah. How do you like this book, by the way, Angel?
Yeah, it's quite fun.
Yeah.
Some of the passages I recognize this one about Pan, I'm sure that it's from Herodotus originally.
Yeah.
The basic.
He does this, that he uses these classical works as a basis, and then he sort of rearranges them and
makes them more legible.
well, he has made it systematic so that the verb forms are presented in a systematic fashion. So if he's dealing with the aorist or something like this, then he has only aorist forms and so on. So, but the basis is in this real classical text that he then rearranges it or has rearranged. And then what I find quite rewarding or good is also that he's included a lot of these inscriptions and real material as well. And once we get closer to the end of the book, the texts are going to be very close to the real classical or original text. So I think it's a very good introduction in that way. You have to work a lot, I think, with the translations, but it really does prepare you for actually reading these original texts, I think, quite efficiently. And that's the goal. I mean, that's why you study this Greek, to be able to read the originals. Right. So yeah, I will end the record.